on the 9th of December 19. No doubt 61 after 71 years of colonial administration. First it was Germany and the next it was Britain. Now they are celebrating 60 years of independence. We're talking about Tanzania. Welcome to the special broadcast here on News Central Television. I'm Joe Hansen, and we are indeed looking at everything that's happening right now there in Tanzania. I'm joined by the beautiful Rita Omodia. Good to have you.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's so good to be here. I mean, 60 years independence. It's no small joke. I mean, look at what they said about celebrating independence. About 300 people to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. That's like the highest mountain. I mean, can you do that, Joe?
Well, I might try that if I'm given some form of incentive, maybe.
Incentive, like how much?
I would have mentioned that here.
Okay, I wanted to say something, which is about Ghani. I'm trying to speak more of their language. And of course, that means, how are you? You know, it's so good about Africa. We have diverse languages, different cultures, and that's the beauty of Africa. And when we watched the view there of the Independence Parade, we saw children singing and dancing, celebrating Independence Day. It's not easy. 60 years is no joke, Joe. It's no joke, no doubt. And we want to thank you so much for joining us for this special broadcast. And we'll be having a guest join us all the way from Tanzania as they celebrate this special independence. Once again, don't forget that you can actually watch us. We are live and we are also online. So make sure that you take advantage of every opportunity to join us as we will be doing this for about 2 hours or thereabout. Without further ado, Rita and myself, Joe Hansen, will be taking a look at Tanzania as they celebrate 60 years of independence. First, we'll take a look at the politics and, of course, not forgetting to governance. And later on, that will be the second half of the show. We will also take a look at the fact that the youths are definitely looking forward to have a brighter future from Tanzania. And not forgetting to the president as well. Yes, of course, Samia Suluhu Hassan, the first female president in an East African country. That's a big one for the country. And of course, we know that in March, the predecessor died, John Magufuli, and there were a lot of expectations for Samia Suluhu Hassan, economy, COVID-19 outbreak. And of course, with this new variant, the Omicron variant, there's a lot of expectations in terms of politics and administration for Samia Suluhu Hassan. All right, so our guests are in and we are ready to roll. But first of all, let's give you some facts about Tanzania as they celebrate 60 years of independence. Stay here.
The name Tanzania was created from the Tanganyika and Zanzibar, the two states that unified to create the country. Located in Eastern Africa, Tanzania lies within the continent's Great Lakes region. It is bordered by Uganda to the north, Kenya to the east, Malawi to the south, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the west. Tanzania is also home to Africa's highest mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro. A country of roughly 56 million people, Tanzania has over 100 different languages, making it the most linguistically diverse country in East Africa, with English and Swahili as its official language. The capital and largest city is Dodoma. The mountainous country gained independence on 9 December 1961 from Britain. Its first president after independence was Julius Nyerere, who led the Tanganyika African National Union, or TANU party. Tanzania is a de facto one-party system with the Democratic Socialist Chama cha Mapinduzi party in power, providing the country with its first female president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, following the death of her predecessor, John Magufuli. To celebrate the country's anniversary this year, the government organized a private tour for 300 Tanzanians to climb Mount Kilimanjaro as part of celebrations to mark the East African nation's Diamond Jubilee. With Tanzania making history by being governed by its first female president, there are high hopes that her reign will bring remarkable change to the nation, especially as she seeks to break away from some of Magufuli's policies, such as the recent reversal of the expulsion of pregnant teenage girls from school. Tanzania's Independence Day remains a remarkable day to the government and people of Tanzania, as it serves as a reminder to stand together and get connected, bury their differences, show love to one another while looking forward with confidence. Happy Independence Day, Tanzania. Omolola Ololade reporting for News Central.
No doubt we can say that you have learned a lot concerning Tanzania, and we are indeed looking forward to learn some more. And that will take us straight to our guests who join us on the first half of this live broadcast, definitely a special one on News Central. Our first guest definitely is someone who many will regard as very outspoken. No doubt he is a man of his words, and he has been there from time immemorial. We would like to bring on, joining us this very morning as Tanzania celebrates 60 years, a former member of parliament, a politician, and a Tanzanian opposition leader. We have Tundu Lissu. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Tundu. Thank you for being here as we mark this celebration, 60 years.
A very good morning, Mr. Hanson, and I'm very thankful for your invitation to your program.
That's right. Also joining us, we do have Dorothy Jonas Semu, Vice Chairperson at Wazalendo, which stands for Alliance for Change and Transparency, the third largest political party in Tanzania. Thank you for joining us as well. All right, you might have to unmute yourself. Please help us do that. You might have to unmute yourself so we can actually get your audio right there. All right, Rita, so we have two of our guests who are joining us live all the way from Tanzania as we look at Tanzania celebrating 60 years. And our first focus would actually focus on, our first point will focus on politics and no doubt governance. So I'm going to start with you first. Tundu, once again, 60 years in celebration. How do you feel seeing Tanzania get to 60 years, and what are your thoughts most importantly?
Well, thank you very much for, first of all, for inviting me to your program. The question is, you are asking the question to someone who is in exile in Europe, someone who was driven out of his country violently, someone who survived a cowardly and dastardly assassination attempt. A national leader who was nearly killed in a country that claims to be independent. You're talking to someone whose national leader is currently in prison, charged with bogus terrorism charges, simply for calling for constitutional reform. And therefore, the answer to your question is, where we are today, 60 years after independence, the ideals for which independence was fought have not been realized. And those ideals were, as espoused by the founding father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, a few months before independence. He said the ideals for which independence was fought were freedom, equality, justice. And here we are 60 years later. We are not free, we are not treated equally, and there is no justice in Tanzania.
I mean, it's no news now from what you've said. You've talked about so much displeasure about how Tanzania is not following the ideals of the founding father, that is Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. Now, if you look at this, how do you feel Tanzania can go back to these ideals that the founding father, philosopher of Tanzania brought into the country?
Now, I should correct you. These are not the ideals of the founding father. These were the ideals of our independence. They were not ideals of one person. These were national ideals. And therefore, if we have departed from them during these 60 years, there is only one way back. We have to go back to those ideals. We have to put our country back on the foundation of democracy, of freedom, of rights. There is no other way. We cannot and we will not develop as a country through dictatorial means. That is not the way of independent countries. That is not a way of the free people.
All right, so permit me to actually move straight to Dorothy, who also joins us here. Dorothy, 60 years, and what are your thoughts?
First, we are honored that we are a self-governing country, but on the other hand, we're disappointed because we had high expectations. I'm sure our forefathers, when they were fighting for independence, they were expecting that the future of the country will be better, the people of the country will be better, and their children will live in a country where they're expected to thrive. They're expected to live in a freedom country where everyone is regarded equally. But so far, that's not what is happening. We can see our poverty levels are not that much. They are not interesting. We have not removed the burden from the common man. The common man is still struggling. The child is still struggling. The politicians are still struggling. So yes, we have our independence, but we have not met the expectations, what our forefathers had in mind, that what will independence mean to us and the future generations.
All right, Dorothy, you've said much, but before this live broadcast, News Central also tried to reach out to the ruling party, but of course we had no feedbacks. I would have loved to hear from their own side, especially now that you and Tundu Lissu are actually saying that 60 years seems like you still have a far way to go. But let's focus on one aspect of it as we go in line. The first one I'd like us to look at is the justice system. Are we saying that there hasn't been a fair justice system, or there hasn't been any improvement?
Yes.
Which one goes first?
All right, so let me start with you. Let me start with the lady first. Let me start with Dorothy.
No, let Tundu go first, please.
Okay, all right. Okay. So let's go straight to you, Tundu.
Well, Mr. Hanson, speaking specifically about the justice system, at the time I was shot and nearly killed in 2017, I was the president of the Tanganyika Law Society, the country's National Bar Association. And therefore, I can tell you about our justice system from the position of knowledge, from the position of a practitioner. And I can tell you that our justice system has completely broken down. We have a justice system and a judiciary that has become completely compromised by the government and the ruling party. The judicial system has now become an instrument for the oppression of the people of Tanzania instead of being an instrument for the defense of their rights. Our courts now have become arenas where we are persecuted, where our people are daily persecuted through trumped-up, politically motivated charges, where people are jailed without due process. Our justice system has literally collapsed during the 60 years of independence.
Okay, Tundu Lissu, you talked about judicial system being collapsed. But you would know that this problem did not start now, especially when you talked about the ruling party. It started even before now. We're talking about 60 years of independence, and 60 other administrations have gone past. So where exactly did the country get it wrong?
That's a very good question, my dear. You see, we have never been ruled by any other party other than the current ruling party. In its earlier incarnation, it was called TANU, Tanganyika African National Union. In 1977, it joined with the ruling party in Zanzibar to form Chama cha Mapinduzi. We have been ruled by the same people, by the same party, under the same system for the past 60 years. And therefore, if things are horribly wrong today, as far as our justice system is concerned, the only people we can put an accusing finger to are those who have been in charge all these 60 years, the ruling regime and its political parties this year.
All right, so let's go straight to Dorothy now. I'd like to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yes, as he said, that the justice system has not been there for the common man to protect the common rights for the people of Tanzania. But moreover, as he said also, we were, for the past 5 years, I think it has become more offensive And most of the politicians, political parties have been facing challenges with the justice system. Most of our leaders have been taken to police custody, detained. Some of them even are still in police custody to date. Some of them have been in and out of courts, facing various charges just because they are politicians, just because they have called meetings to meet their people. So we expected that the justice system should protect, defend the Constitution, as this is a multi-party democracy, as stated in our Constitution, and also protected by various laws. But instead, we find that the justice system is inclined to the ruling party, and at the same time not making it being a viable field, a plain level field for people who are in the opposition.
Okay, Dorothy, let's talk woman to woman now. I'm not going the way of feminism, but we know that we have the first female president in Tanzania, and in June we had 100 days. We're talking about politics and governance. How would you rate the administration of Samia Suluhu Hassan so far?
Well, we are celebrating. We have a female president. We had a lot of expectations. In the first 100 days, we wanted to see more being done, but we are yet to see that in action. President Samia promised a lot. Above all, she promised to meet the political parties, the politicians, and discuss what's the way forward, comparing to the last dispensation where there was a lot of, civic space being squeezed and all that. But yet today, she has not met the politicians. So there's much to be told, and yet she even insisted on what the previous president had done on, banning of political rallies. She's a politician, and she knows that when election does not start today, politicians are at work every day. They're either on the field or they're in the offices, strategizing. So we have not reached we cannot say that there's any feeling that this will be a better ruler compared to Magufuli. We are yet to have something to touch on and say, for sure, she said this and she has embarked on a certain journey to change the political situation in Tanzania.
Dorothy, what about the COVID-19 response team? I think one of the major issues in Tanzania was the fact that they neglected the presence of COVID-19 in the country. So what about that? She acknowledged it, and now we have reports, and so far we've been hearing news about a good COVID-19 response team. Don't you think she did well in that part?
Oh, she did the right thing. I think she was advised rightfully, and but yes, now we can tell that we have COVID. We have already started embarking on the vaccination and also prevention, and also giving data to the WHO of what is happening to COVID in a situation in our country. Yeah, it's a commendable job, but we have to weigh the in and outs. There are a lot of other things which we expected were going to be done within the 100 days, important things. COVID was important, yes, but our people need democracy. Our people need to vent out what they're seeing is not right in the government. So we were expecting for such answers in a good and cordial manner, and we thought that the sooner she had done it, the better.
All right, so let me go straight to Tundu. Tundu, let's look at the fact that Samia Hassan has actually been listed by Forbes as one of the 100 most powerful women in the world. I'm talking about being listed alongside America's Kamala Harris and the likes. Don't you think this is a plus for Tanzania? Looking at the fact that she is a lady who has taken a charge of running the government, isn't she well scored by you? After marking 100 days and now 60 years of anniversary?
Mr. Hanson, the fact that Forbes has listed President Samia Suluhu Hassan as one of the most powerful women in the world depends purely on the fact that Magufuli died. Had Magufuli not died, Samia Suluhu Hassan would not be on the Forbes list. So, she's one of the most powerful women in the world purely because she was a heartbeat away from the presidency. Nothing more, nothing less.
Let me come in there, right, Tundu. Well, I would beg to differ as I stand by saying the same president that you said couldn't have done better because the former president died has also been able to help improve the economy. I mean, it's written there, it's everywhere, that the economy has actually seen a growth rate. I'm talking about a major growth rate from a percentage of from 4.5 to 5. And experts are already saying that investments are starting to come into Tanzania. Don't you think that this should be a plus? Let's look at the positives for now.
Well, Mr. Hanson, these figures on economic growth are very dubious. During the 5 years of President Magufuli's reign, we were told that the economy was growing at about 7% annually. We were told that the country was doing very well economically. Within months of Magufuli's death, President Samia Suluhu Hassan told us that actually the economy was in a shambles. And she has said, she is on record saying that the reason that she cannot allow democracy back in Tanzania is because the economy has nearly collapsed. So these figures are just manufactured figures. They are contradicted by her own statements to the effect that the economy is in tatters. And of course, millions of Tanzanians know by their own hard experience that their economies, their life, their standards of living have collapsed during this past 5 or 6 years, including this the 8-9 months that Samia Suluhu Hassan has been in office. So the figures are just that, numbers. They have no reality whatsoever. They have no relation whatsoever to the lived experience of the people of Tanzania. The people of Tanzania are hurting economically. People have not had salary increases since 2015. Our employees everywhere. Unemployment is gone through the roof. We are hurting badly economically, and the figures for economic growth are just that. These are numbers, and numbers don't put food on the table, on anybody's table.
Okay, Tunde, we're still looking at governance, and this time around we're going towards economy, just like Joe Hansen rightly stated, and you have also incurred. Now, the Tanzanian economy is heavily based on agriculture, which accounts of 28.7% of gross domestic product and provides 85% of exports and accounts for half of the employed workforce. Now, do you think, because you were also a candidate, even though on exile, do you think its dependency on agriculture is a threat to the livelihood of the people? Let's hear from you.
Can you come again, please?
Do you think its dependency on agriculture, that's as a country, do you think it has affected the livelihood of the people?
The dependency?
On agriculture.
The dependence on agriculture?
Yes.
Well, I think the answer to that is yes. We have always depended on export of agricultural products for as our main source of export revenue, and the truth of the matter is, all countries that depend on export of primary products have suffered economically. Our agriculture remains very backward. It has not been transformed in the past 60 years of independence. It is still dependent on rainfall. It is still dependent on hand hoe. It is completely backward. And therefore, the answer again is the dependency on this subsistence agriculture is one of the reasons why our economy remains as backward as it is.
Then how can they grow Tanzania's economy?
There is only one way, in my view. We can only grow our economy through industrialization, through building an industrial base, which will ensure that whatever we produce from agriculture is exported as finished products. There is value addition. Instead of exporting raw cotton or raw coffee or raw tea, we have to industrialize. Countries that depend on export of primary agricultural products or primary minerals are suffering economically. They have suffered economically, and therefore the way out is transform the country through industry and transform agriculture through industry. Don't depend on export of primary products. Export industrial products that have gone through value addition.
Anyway, if you just joined us, this is News Central. We are looking at Tanzania as it celebrates 60 years, 71 years away from colonial administration from Germany and, of course, from Britain. Our two guests are indeed opposing parties. And don't forget, our team is equally working hard to ensure that we also get someone definitely from CCM to equally join us and see if we can corroborate some of your statements that have been made. But let me take Dorothy on this one. Dorothy, let's quickly look at the fact that the Prime Minister, I'm talking about Kassim Majaliwa, has come out to open up and say that investment is one key thing that should be accepted in Tanzania. And also looking at the political space, don't you think that Samia and, of course, her team are putting together a front in terms of ensuring that Tanzania grows from beyond what it is? Don't you think she should be given some credit at least?
This is the same team. There's only one person who's not in the team, and that is the late President Magufuli. The same Prime Minister has been in place, the same Samia by then, right? Samia was the Vice President. So it is the same team. So for us, we are watching how they are taking in and out our economies, but we are not seeing really tangible results trickling down to the common man. We can say about industries in and out, about foreign investment. That's what we were told in the past 5 years, that they were increasing and more. And we were even told that there are more industries, 3,000, I think, and plus. This is the same CCM team which has been ruling the country for the past 60 years. So we are seeing words, but we are not seeing words matching with the actual results, what we want to see from the common man. They say that the investment have increased, but also unemployment of the youth have increased. It is now we are having hawkers who have degrees. It is a moment where people have been holding their certificates for more than 3-4 years, looking for jobs. So we expected if we had more investment, there will be more jobs. We'll have less youth in the streets. We'll be exporting more products. But you could see our data, this had decreased for the past few years. So we are hearing one thing and experiencing the other.
Okay, Dorothy, unemployment and poverty are one of the things that have affected the economy of Tanzania. And recently, we had news that Tanzania had instituted a school re-entry policy. Is that a pass mark for this present administration?
I wouldn't say it's a pass mark. This was in the policy that students, female students who get pregnant, once they bear the children, they're going to get back to school. But that was to implement this. It's even in the ruling party manifesto that they are going to be taken back to school to finish their education. It's the president who had directed a decree that they shouldn't be doing so. So they are just unraveling their own doing, and we are hoping it will bring change, and these female students will go back to school, get education, and better their lives. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see female students being taken aback just because they've been pregnant. As we know, there are so many problems encountering them. It's not a matter of choice. It's just the circumstances that they have led them to reach such a situation.
All right, Dorothy, you've been a vice chairperson for ACT Wazalendo Alliance for Change and, of course, for transparency. You're looking to ensure that change and transparency actually comes to Tanzania. But let me ask you this quickly. 60 years, what are the 4 things that you are hoping and looking forward that will change in this dispensation or administration?
Firstly, we would want to see a new constitution in place. There have been a lot of, this and that concerning the new constitution, which its process had started and stalled in 2014. So we hope this task is going to be put to an end and, put in a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of situations which have been encountered, look for lasting solutions so that we have a constitution which protects its citizens and is to be followed to date. Another thing I would like to see is the improvement of the economy. We would want to see the number of people living below poverty line changed. We would like to see, yes, good figures, but the economy felt by the people that their life is changing for better. The third thing I would like to see is the, youth. Youth are given proper solutions to what is happening now. They are given opportunities to study, to thrive, to get into businesses. They are given opportunities to establish businesses and be, youth which are thriving in their own country. And lastly, we'd want to see an improved, a better political space, a better multi-party country being put in place.
Okay, a better political space, you call. And of course, that's the prayer that we are hoping for as we mark the 60th independence anniversary in Tanzania. We'll go on a quick break and we'll be right back. Do stay tuned.
Hello to the world. Hello Africa. Hello Tanzania. My name is Francis Eugenshao, 28 years of age. I am proud to be Tanzanian citizen for so many reasons. First of all, our country is peaceful and you can invest, you can have it all being a Tanzanian citizen. But also we have a plenty of national parks. We have a Serengeti National Park, we have Manyara, we have Tarangire, and then we have the largest crater in Africa called Ngorongoro National Park. But also we have plenty of minerals. We have Tanzanite, which of course is very unique, but also we have gold, we have coal, but also we have a lot of diamonds in Tanzania. We don't have so many things to share with you, but we say welcome to Tanzania, one of the peaceful environment. We are happy to be educated here and we are celebrating 60 years of independence.
We are very happy that you are now celebrating 60 years old. We are very proud of you and we are really happy to be Tanzanian. As a Tanzanian, we are really glad of you and we are proud of our beautiful land. We are beautiful, your beautiful country. We are really happy to be born here and we're enjoying the way you taught us to be kind, to love each other and to maintain our peace, to maintain our unity and the union between Tanzania and Zanzibar. We are really proud of you and we thank you for keeping us and keeping our beautiful land and the beautiful people. You taught us to maintain our culture and you taught us to maintain our peace and to love each other.
Thank you for staying with us. It's a special broadcast here on News Central, taking a look at Tanzania at 60, celebrating 60 years of independence. Our guests have been from the opposition party, and we are talking about Tundu Lissu and not forgetting to Dorothy Jonas Semu, who have both spoken deeply, especially looking at the scorecard of 60 years under the leadership of the president who actually had to take over following the death of the former president, if we want to put it that way. But first, We've talked about everything concerning the political space, looking at Tanzania, but we're not done yet. To our guest, Tundulisu, let me go back to you as we look at this. Let's look at definitely public service. How would you rate public service in the past 60 years, particularly looking at health? Now, you mentioned that you were shot at, let me put it that way. And first of all, you had to go through the challenges, the stress of ensuring that you got proper treatment, and you were eventually healed, if I'll put it that way, and you had to go on exile. But looking at the space, the health space, how would you say health has actually thrived in 60 years?
Thank you very much. Obviously, in 60 years, there has been a transformation of our health sector. We have more hospitals. We have more health centers where our people have more access to health care than they had 60 years ago. And therefore, I will be the last person to say that there has not been any improvement in the health sector. There has been. However, we should be measuring our standards in accordance with international standards. And I think if you measure our performance in the health sector in terms of international standards, then you will find that we don't measure up to international standards. You have mentioned the fact that I was shot. I was shot multiple times, shot 16 times. And many people, including myself, believe that had I remained in Tanzania, had I not been airlifted to neighboring Kenya for treatment, I wouldn't be talking to you today. And the reason is because our healthcare, even after 60 years, does not measure up to international standards. Most of our people, those with the means, are treated outside Tanzania. They go to India, to Zambia, to Kenya, to South Africa, to Dubai, and so on and so forth. So those are the few with the means. The vast majority of our people have to fend for themselves in our healthcare system, where our hospitals do not have sufficient drugs, where our nurses and doctors are poorly paid, where our hospitals do not have the kind of facilities that you would expect for an independent country 60 years after independence. So yes, there are changes, there are transformations from what we were in 1961, but these transformations have not gone hand in hand with the growth in our population, and more importantly, they have, in terms of quality, they cannot measure up to regional or even international standards. That's why I said those with the means do not get treated in Tanzania. They are treated in Kenya or in South Africa or in India, anywhere but Tanzania. Right. So there is still a long way to go in order to bring our healthcare system up to international standard.
All right, Tundulisu, no doubt you agree with me that reaching international best practices when it comes to medical care and, of course, the health sector is not just peculiar to Tanzania. I mean, if you take a look at the IFC, I'm talking about the International Finance Corporation, it's been mentioned that about 50% of medical care is actually sorted from pocket. I'm talking about from personal pockets. So sub-Saharan Africa is actually used to not having a proper healthcare system. Dorothy, you focus on transparency. Would you agree that at least, corroborating with what Tundulisu has said, that the healthcare system can be regarded as one out of many in Africa that is quite functional?
Yes, that we have better systems compared, I think, to a few others. We have better networks. We have more hospitals, I think about 200 of them. We have about 9,000 health centers. We have a functioning National Health Insurance Fund, Community Health Fund. All those are done to at least put our health system to be much better. But on the ground, it has made a difference. But to the common man, it's in recent years that in my country you find that people cannot pay for a dead body, and the dead body is being held so that people can pay the bills. This has not been our culture. So you find that on one hand the government is trying to make it better, but on the other hand it's becoming heavier on the person who are paying the bills.
Sorry to cut in. You made statements of dead body needs to be paid for. People cannot pay for it. Do you want to expatiate more on that? We need to get the angle at which you're coming from, Dorothy. If you could help us explain that more to the benefit of our viewers as well.
We are having situations where a family loses a person. And this person was admitted in the hospital. So before the family gets the deceased for funeral and other things, they should ensure that they've paid their bills fully. So some families cannot afford to do that. So we have had several situations where you find that people, the people of the bereaved want the body, but the certain health centers are saying, no, you need to pay the bills. So such situations have not been common until recent in our country. In other years, the burden was bearable. So you find that this burden is becoming unbearable for common man to bring money out of his pocket to pay for their hospital bills. The National Insurance Health Fund is trying to capture, to have most members in its system. But you find that it's not all. Most people are those who are employed by the government and few from the private sectors. So the health system is trying. We can say it's trying to do its best, but the situation is not as favorable as we could say. It needs improvement, and we expected to see more. We expected to see government putting more funds in the health system so that we have a better health system compared to the international standards, and where they have excelled to do better in the same least developed country situations.
Okay, before we move over from health, because health seems to be a very important public service in the country. Tundulisi, I'm coming over to you because your story is quite interesting. Shot 16 times. You must be a man with 9 lives, so to say. Well, we're looking at the issue of health now, and we know that the health insurance coverage is still very low in Tanzania. As of 2019, 32% of Tanzanians had health insurance coverage. You talked about the health facility not being able to reach international standards. Talked about a shortage of fully trained doctors also. Is the problem due to corruption in the health service or probably budget allocation?
The problem is not just corruption. The problem is massive underinvestment in the health care. For a proper healthcare system, you need investment, not just in buildings, but you also need investments in human beings. You need to train doctors. You need to train nurses. You need to train all kinds of medical workers. And after training them, you have to make sure that they are properly provisioned, that there are sufficient drugs, that there are sufficient facilities in hospitals for them to do their work. As it is, we have buildings which do not have drugs. We have hospitals without drugs. We have hospitals that do not have the kind of facilities that go hand in hand with a properly functioning healthcare system. We have doctors and medical workers who are completely demoralized because they are not paid properly, because they are not properly facilitated to do their job. And therefore, even though we talk of improvements in 60 years, the fact of the matter is, compared to what we could have been, we are far back actually.
Okay, Tundu, that means you're leaning towards... Tundu, can you hear me, please? Are you leaning towards the issue of budget allocation then?
Yeah, beg your pardon?
Are you leaning towards the issue of budget allocation? You said there's not been enough investment in the health sector, which means that, I'm trying to ask you now, does it mean that there's no enough money put into the health sector from the budget of the country?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
We have not had the kind of budget that would go hand in hand with the actual needs in the health sector.
Okay, Tundu. Okay, we're looking at the issue of women in politics now. I'm coming over to you, Dorothy. We've talked about health, and then Tundu has said a lot about budget allocation in the health system, and of course, more investment in the health system. Women in politics, we've had the first female president in Tanzania. Do you feel we need more women participating in politics at this point in time?
Come again?
Do you feel we need more women participating in politics in Tanzania?
Absolutely, yes. We need more women. When more women are here, you find that they will be able to influence change, more change, better change. And we have seen women as good politicians who are there to solve the basic societal problems. So we want more women to come into politics and take part in leading and changing the country.
When we're talking about women participation, what are the challenges so far in Tanzania? Do we have them, is the system open for women to join politics, or do we have women who are not educated enough to join into politics? What challenges would you think that there is in Tanzania for women to participate in politics?
First, our system in Tanzania, the way it works, if any woman wants to come into politics, they should come through political parties. So most of the political parties are not, what's the word for it? They are not well prepared, having all the means to ensure that they bring more and more women to their party and make them, become better politicians. The past few years have made politics become a very fearsome territory to venture. And women want to come into places where they're safe. They are sure that of their safety, that they will work in a place where they'll be well nurtured and all that. But that has not been happening in those who have been venturing into politics for the past 6 to 7 years. So first, we need an environment, a friendly environment, where when a woman walks in and decided that she's going to be a politician, she's assured of protection, she's assured that she's doing something better for her country and not be threatened in any other way, as it has been seen, especially to the opposition politicians. Secondly, the same political parties are not well-funded, to support women activities, to support women in venturing into communities and bringing up more women who are good leaders and who are going to take part into politics. And thirdly, being a patriarchal society, we don't expect this just to come like that. So there are still, those situations where women are not seen as, politicians or good politicians. So this has to be worked in the minds of Tanzanians to allow women to take part into politics and to be leaders.
Okay, Tundu, I'm coming over to you now. We're still talking politics and governance. And there's a serious issue now, security in Tanzania. How would you rate it so far? Well,
security for our people has been terrible these past few years, especially. I'm talking to you of a country which in 2016, 2017, over 400 villagers just south of Dar es Salaam in areas around the Rufiji River Basin were murdered by the security forces in circumstances that have never been explained. We are talking of a country which has seen disappearances abductions and disappearances of political leaders, of political activists who have remained unaccounted for. One of our richest business people, actually, Mohamed Dewji, who is, I guess, one of the richest people in Africa, was abducted and went missing for several days. And after he was released, nothing has ever been explained. We are talking of a country where political activists have been murdered in broad daylight. We are talking of a country where I am a living testimony of the kind of security situation in Tanzania. I was shot 16 times in parliament. I was a parliamentary leader. Gunned down 16 times, and nothing has been done to date. No one has ever been arrested, no investigation, nothing. Our security forces have become instruments of torturing people. And these are not just, these are a kind of information that is now appearing in our courts of law, that the security forces have engaged themselves in torturing people, in torturing political opponents of the current government. And therefore, to answer your question in very briefly, the security situation of our people has been very shaky, to say the least.
All right, that's quite interesting. But if you recall as well, you talk about the security. Don't forget that the defense minister as well, I'm talking about Dr. Tax, has actually also come out to say that Tanzania is actually secure, talking about the land, air, and also the sea. I'm not going to go to you, Tundu. I'll go to you quickly, Dorothy. Dorothy, I'll still talk on you bordering on transparency. Do you agree with that statement that it is transparent, that there is a high level of security in Tanzania, looking at the bordering nations that surround Tanzania?
Yes, we can say we are fairly secured. On the same pace as politicians, we are hindered or barred from doing meetings, internal meetings, external meetings, public rallies for concerns on security. So we don't know if this security applies only to certain parties and not to other parties. So we see fairly
know-how in terms of security.
As a developing country, I wouldn't say that we have reached being a top-notch in our security systems. We all need to improve our security systems so that we have best security system compared to nations which have gone far in the same area.
All right, Tundu, as we look forward to bring this first half of Tanzania at 60 to a close, it is imperative that, or imperative, I beg your pardon, that I ask you the question: what is your current relationship with the current ruling party? Especially, what's your relationship with Samia Suluhu Hassan?
Well, that's a very good question, my brother. I'm still in exile, and I'm still in exile because President Samia Suluhu Hassan has shown no interest or inclination to have those of us who were driven out by her predecessor return home to contribute in the building of our country. My party chairman, my national party chairman, is in prison as we speak, and she was not put in prison by Magufuli. She was put in prison by Samia Suluhu Hassan. My party has over 300 members who are in various prisons in Tanzania, not because of anything, but because of this politically motivated persecution by the current president and the former president. We cannot hold meetings, we cannot hold rallies, which are lawful, which are permitted under our laws. And therefore, relations with the government are what they have been for the past 6 years. Relations between a government which has victimized political opposition, which victimized political leaders, and we have been we continue to be the victims of this vicious government.
Okay, thank you so much, Tundu. You talked so much about the relationship.
Let me also ask Tundu quickly. Tundu, you've talked about the fact that you're still in exile. Although we're looking forward to have two more guests who join us, but Tundu, to be honest, Dorothy, Tundu, if you were called to join and make a change by Samia Suluhu Hassan, would you?
Absolutely. If the president was to heed to our call that she calls for national dialogue, we made the call the moment she became president. I personally called her. My national chairman wrote to her calling for dialogue. If she heeds our call, releases political prisoners, stops the persecution of the political opposition, allows political activity normal in a democratic society, embarks on a process of national reconciliation and national reform, I will be on the plane the next day to Dar es Salaam, to Tanzania.
What about you, Dorothy?
And we have said that very clear.
And you, Dorothy?
I'm in Tanzania, working hard for my party, and looking forward also to work hand in hand with the president to better our environment for the future of Tanzania. We have been a party which our slogan is we put the country first in all situations, and we are ready for reconciliation and looking for better ways to make our country work as a multi-party democracy.
All right.
So we see reconciliation in the limelight then. I think that's good news. You talked about dialogue and, of course, national reforms. Well, we're trying to get the ruling party to also come and give their own views, and we're still hoping to hear from them so they can tell us what exactly they're doing in the government and if they're also willing for reconciliation. We do await the ruling party of Tanzania to also come and give their opinions as Tanzania celebrates the 60th independence anniversary. And of course, this will take us to the end of the first half, where we talked about politics and governance in Tanzania. And it's been a very wonderful discussion with Tundu Lissu and, of course, Dorothy Jonas Semu. On our second half, a second phase of the program, we're talking about youth's involvement in politics. And youths, as we know, are the future generation. We need to focus on the youths. And our guest would be Johansson. We have Ashura Kayuma Yupa, and that's a youth activist. We also have Ali Khan Sancho, and that's Africa Geoeconomics and macro analyst.
I'm sure we're looking forward to that. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Tundu Lissu and Dorothy Jonas Semu. Thank you for being a great sport as you celebrate 60th anniversary.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, you're still watching News Central. We are Africa First, and our aim is to ensure that we continue to spotlight all the information, news, details, and everything that you need to know concerning the very beautiful continent of Africa. So many challenges that we discussed and so on.
Yes.
And we've seen how our guests were able to break it down. But don't forget, we're also working hard, especially in tandem with the Tanzanian government, to make sure that we also have the ruling party representative join us here live. But in the meantime, let's take you to the celebrations as they continue from different parts of Tanzania. Everyone is celebrating. Let's join them. We'll be right back with the second half.
Zitakazopita mbele yako hivi sasa ni silaha za msaada kwa kamandi ya jeshi la nchi kavu, ambazo miongoni mwa majukumu yake ni kutoa mapigo ya msaada kwa vikundi rafiki vilivyo mstari wa mbele, kupiga vikundi vya askari wa miguu, kubomoa ngome za adui, kupiga magari ya deraya na kupiga maeneo muhimu ya adui kama vituo vya mafuta, maghala ya silaha, viwanja vya ndege, bandari na kadhalika.
Hizo Mheshimiwa Rais ndio ndege za usafirishaji aina ya helikopta ambazo zinapita. Usafirishaji aina ya hiyo inapita, inatumika katika kusafirisha vifaa mbalimbali vya kijeshi pamoja na kutoa msaada kwenye mamlaka za kiraia katika usafirishaji.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, silaha inayopita mbele yako hivi sasa ni mizinga ya ardhini, field artillery, aina ya 130mm gun. Kazi ya mizinga hii ni kuvunja ngome ya adui na kuharibu magari ya dilaya, ikiwa imetanguliwa na gari la polisi jeshi kwa ajili ya kusafisha njia na kutunza nidhamu ya njia. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, silaha inayopita ni mzinga aina ya 130mm gun. Kazi ya silaha hii ni kuvunja ngome ya adui na kuharibu magari ya dilaya. Mzinga unaofuata ikifuatiwa na bavoa machine 21. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, silaha inayopita mbele yako ni mzinga aina ya bavoa machine 21. Mzinga huu unapiga vikundi vya adui aliyejichimbia kwenye mahandaki au adui aliye katika vikundi vidogo vidogo.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, inayopita mbele yako sasa ni mzinga wa Glad Portable Complex Glad P. Mzinga huu ulipewa jina la Glad kumwenzi mgunduzi wake ambaye alikuwa ni mwanamama Gladness. Tunaposema portable ni kwa sababu inabebeka kwa urahisi, na complex kwa sababu ina mapigo mazito makali yenye utata.
Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, unaopita mbele yako ni mzinga aina 122mm Howitzer D30 Alpha. Mzinga huu unatumika kupiga adui wa wazi, ikifuatiwa na gari ya armored, ikifuatiwa na Scorpion Combat Vehicle Reconnaissance. Kifaru hiki kinatumika katika mazoezi ya kuandaa maafisa na askari wanaokwenda ulinzi wa amani nchi mbalimbali. Miongoni mwa majukumu yake ni uchunguzi wa adui, kusindikiza misafara ya watu maarufu na kutawanya makundi yasiyo rasmi. Kinachofuata ni kifaru, kinachopita mbele yako ni kifaru ya aina 03 amphibian tigi. Miongoni mwa majukumu yake ni kutoa msaada wa mapigo kwa jeshi la wanamaji, na pia kinatumika kwenye operesheni mbalimbali kama amphibious landing. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, kinachopita mbele yako sasa ni kifaru ya aina ya VT2 main battle tank. Kifaru hichi jukumu lake ni kuharibu vifaru vya adui. Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, kinachopita mbele yako hivi sasa ni kikundi cha waandishi wa medani ambacho miongoni mwa kazi zake ni kuwezesha vikundi vyetu kusonga mbele na kutoa msaada wa ujenzi wa madaraja, kutegua mabomu na kutoa msaada kwa mamlaka za kiraia pindi inapotokea hitajio. Linalopita mbele yako sasa ni daraja aina ya Q21 Fast Mechanized Bridge. Lina uwezo wa kujengwa na kujenguliwa kwa muda wa dakika 20 tu. Pia lina uwezo wa kupitisha magari ya minyororo na magari ya kawaida. Daraja hilo linafuatiwa na daraja la Q50 Heavy Mechanized Vehicle, Heavy Mechanized Bridge. Lina uwezo wa kujengwa na kujenguliwa kwa muda dakika 45 mpaka 60 kwa daraja moja. Lina uwezo wa kupitisha magari ya minyororo na magari ya kawaida.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, zinazofuata hivi sasa ni silaha za msaada kutoka kamandi ya anga. Miongoni mwa majukumu yake ni pamoja ya ulinzi wa anga dhidi ya ndege za adui, kulinda na kuhakikisha usalama wa anga dhidi ya adui wa angani, kutoa msaada wa vikundi vyote rafiki vya ardhini wakati wa vita. Na iliyotangulia mbele yako hivi sasa, Mheshimiwa Rais, ni rada
kufanya doria katika mwambao wa bahari na kutoa msaada kwa mamlaka za kiraia. Inayopita mbele yako hivi sasa ni Mobile Radar 403C ya Automatic Identification System. Ni miongoni mwa zana za uchunguzi wa shabaha za majini, baharini na maziwani, hususan maeneo ya upofu, yani blind zone. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, inayopita mbele yako ni speed boat, aluminium boat. Boti hii hujulikana kama interceptor boat. Ina spidi kubwa kuliko vyombo vingine vinavyofanya kazi baharini na imetengenezwa na kamandi ya wanamaji nchini. Lakini pia inayopita sasa hivi ni Tanzania Navy Ship Kobe. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, Tanzania Navy Ship Kobe, boti hii ni ya utawala. Inatumika hasa kusafirisha watu mashuhuri. Hutumika pia kutoa msaada kwenye taasisi na mamlaka za kiraia. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, miongoni mwa majukumu ya Jeshi la Ulinzi la Wananchi wa Tanzania.
Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, ndege zinazopita za rangi ya njano ni ndege za mafunzo ya kivita.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, inayopita mbele yako hivi sasa inayosogelea jukwaa kuu ni mtambo maalum wa kunyanyulia na kushusha makontena, container handler, ikiwa imetanguliwa na mobile workshop. Inayofuata ni gari ambalo limebuniwa na shirika letu la Nyumbu.
If you're just tuning in, this is News Central and we are having a special broadcast taking a look at Tanzania at 60. Earlier on, we spoke to two members of different opposing parties, and we were talking about Tundu Lissu and not forgetting to Dorothy Jonas Sinu, who joined us. We're still in expectation of having a member of the current ruling party join us. But it's time for us to look at another aspect of the entire celebration. Rita, still here with me. Hi.
Definitely, of course. And before we came on live, we also had live feeds from the Independence Anniversary at the Dar es Salaam National Stadium. That's the former capital of Dar es Salaam. And it's been a wonderful occasion so far. I think we have dignitaries, the President of Kenya, that's Uhuru Kenyatta. We also saw Samia Suluhu Hassan. And those soldiers, Joe, I can imagine you in soldier uniform. I don't know.
They were actually matching really hard. I think there was also a display of the military and the artillery that they do possess. And right now on the screen, as you can see, there's also a major show off of what Tanzania is proud of. And we are talking about their public services, what they have, fire trucks. These are what you also see, the attires which are held in a serious level of repute. Not forgetting you have the army, you have you also have the doctors.
Yes.
We did mention how they're faring, especially when it came to the aspect of health.
Joe, we see lots of people there at the venue for the Independence Anniversary. And though we're looking at COVID-19 compliance, but I think, I don't want to say they're carried away with the Independence Day anniversary celebration. I don't think I'm seeing lots of people wearing face masks. I think it's just more of the celebration so far from what we can see so far.
Don't also forget that Tanzania is amongst the countries that have been listed by the United Kingdom, especially on the red list. And they have actually told all citizens not to make their way down to the Tanzania, So that's one thing that we also need to take note of. But of course, kudos to Samia Hassan, who has also done a great job, especially coming with the fact that she's actually pushed further to ensure that vaccination is a major drive. But now for us to actually proceed as we look at Tanzania at 60, we do have our two new guests to join us. And this time we'll be looking at the fact that youth, no doubt, is the focus. Joining us right now, we do have Ashura Kayupayupa, who is indeed a youth activist. She joins us and she'll be discussing much more, especially as Tanzania celebrates 60.
It's so good to have you join us on News Central, celebrating Tanzania at 60.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
All right, also joining us, you can see him there on the screen, is Ali Khan Sachu, Africa geoeconomic and also macro analyst. Thank you so much for being here as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so let's do this for the next 1 hour, and we'll go straight into it. We are all aware that the celebration is actually ongoing. 60 years And the youth, no doubt, have also come out to mention that in as much as they celebrated 60 years, they've drawn out a long list of what they are looking forward to see in the next years to come. I'm going to start with you first, right away, Kayupa Yupa. Seem to like that name, by the way. First of all, let's ask this question. What are the youths actually eagerly anticipating as Tanzania turns 60?
This is a tricky question. Even though it's a fact that Tanzanian youth are more than half of the population, but I feel like we have stepped back. We have had some kind of a civic inertia from participating fully into politics. Because every elections year, youth has been used for entertainment and for voting, but nothing happens after, and we don't follow up. For example, recently, the ruling party has been demolishing youth businesses across the country. We call them street vendors. Considering that the employment rate is so high, so young people employ themselves by doing small businesses here and there, but then the government comes and demolish their businesses without providing alternative or discussing with us, the youth. So I feel like we have not shown our eagerness into participating fully into politics. For example, our fellow youth from Zambia has just shown the power of the youth by participating fully in their recent elections, and also making sure that the person that they voted for was announced. But in Tanzania, youth vote, but then it's like, oh, whoever is announced, it doesn't matter. It's like we don't feel like politics rule our life and that politics is life in itself. And so we have to take full charge. And this is what I hope and wish, that the youth will take full charge of our life and the politics of the country today, because the ruling party has failed us for the past 6 decades.
All right. Kayupa Yupa, you've mentioned that some of their businesses are being demolished, and these are the same youths that are being used for entertainment, especially when it comes to pre-election activities. But currently, as we speak, Tanzania turning 60, are the youths being given some form of incentives, or better still, are they actually given some form of tax rebates when they're actually engaging in businesses?
Not really. I mean, according to ruling party manifesto policies, it might be written there, but in fact, it doesn't. Or you have to somehow be associated with the ruling party, or some kind of corruption, nepotism. You have to know somebody. It's not open. It's not accessible to all the youth in the country. A lot of us in Tanzania is about surviving and not living. We strive, we work so hard, even when the education system is not functioning and is failing us. There is no a way that you can get the skills that you need to start business today out of school, even the capital. So young people strive on their own to make the living. And then the government only knows to come and say, no, Ella, now I'm mixing with Norwegian. Oh, no, you cannot do business, or this is not allowed. So it's more about you can do it than you can do. There is no opportunity and possibility for young people to access and have a better life that we should have after 60 years of independence.
Okay, you're looking at the issue of youths and the economy, and I know that one major issue is the part of education there for youth, and of course unemployment. How do you think that we can better the education system in Tanzania? Because one of the issues that we saw is the fact that most times what people study cannot go on with what we have in the business environment. So how can we better the educational system in Tanzania?
That's a very good question. I feel like we have to actually improve our education system, because it's like producing people who are not needed by the current market. And I am afraid that the ruling party is not interested in changing, or it has no political will in changing the current education system, because it's serving them. When you have ignorant people, that's a good platform for you to do whatever you do, like the way it does now, looting the country, stealing the elections, and just continue with the status quo. When we got independent in 1961, our first president said that we had 3 challenges to fight, and that were poverty, ignorance, and diseases. What have we done so far? Even in part to eliminate one of them? No. And CCM is not interested, unfortunately, to change the education system that will prepare youth for the market today and the future, and for innovation, and for, like, the world is going on the 21st century, and Tanzanian education is like from 18th, 17th century. It's about memorizing, it's about cramming. It's not really revolutionizing our mind and providing opportunities, considering that Tanzania is so rich in resources that we can think and utilize our own resources for our own betterment. But the ruling party is not interested, unfortunately. But we have really to change the education system to prepare youth for today and the future.
Quite deep. All right, it's time for me to bring in Ali Khan Sachu. Ali, you've looked at the economies of African countries, talk about the sub-Saharan and the likes. And Tanzania is our focus today. Looking at the fact that they are blessed, especially when you talk about mining, you also make mention of real estate, which is
tourism.
Tourism as well. Kilimanjaro and the likes. What do you think Tanzania needs to do right in order to ensure that there's a lot of improvements, especially concerning the economy?
So it's a very rich economy in terms of resources. If I can just give you some extra flavors to what you were talking about. Tourism, as you've mentioned, a very big income stream, obviously difficult during the pandemic. It's seen quite a slide. Mining, gold, other precious minerals, and bear in mind the entire 21st century economy is based on a lot of minerals that are only found in Africa. Then you've got the natural gas discoveries near the border with Mozambique. This was in the slow lane for a while, but I think Minister January Makamba is now trying to accelerate the extraction of that gas. Very rich agricultural economy, which is very helpful in this day and age where we're seeing surging food prices. And Tanzania is a little bit like Uganda, that they can provide enough food to feed their people at good prices. And also then they have substantial exports in that space. Cashew nuts is just one example. So overall, it has enormous potential. I think a lot of people compare it to its neighbors in Kenya in particular and talk about how Kenya's economy is supposedly bigger, but Kenya's been rebasing its economy more frequently than Tanzania. And I would argue that Tanzania probably has a bigger economy when you look at it in resource terms. I think you were speaking earlier about education, and I think that's one of the challenges when it comes to unlocking the potential of any economy. More valuable than resources in the ground is the human capital that walks upon it. But the human capital isn't optimized unless you're educating it for the 21st century. And I think your previous speaker was touching on that very issue. And if Tanzania really wants to accelerate growth, it's going to have to look at how it educates this demographic dividend in time. So a lot of potential in the economy. It slowed down a little bit last year. I expect it to accelerate over the coming years. A lot of potential. And of course, you've got this big pipeline that the Ugandans are looking to build to the port of Tanga. So yes, I would rank it. It's punching below its weight as an economy. It can punch a lot better, I think.
Okay, Ali, as an African geoeconomic and macro analyst, we know that Tanzania depends so much on agriculture for its revenue and income. How well would you say the agricultural technology of Tanzania has grown so far?
That's a good question. I would have thought that, it's like the majority of Africa. Really, we're only now beginning to embrace agri-tech. Our challenges are, firstly, that, we have a lot of small farmers, and knitting together smallholder farmers into a bigger whole in order to increase production and deliver better prices to them is not an easy task. We have a lot of interest in businesses looking to deploy the mobile phone and deploy better farming practices through the use of the mobile phone, and we're seeing good results coming out of that. But I would definitely say at this point in time, Tanzania, probably no different to the rest of Africa, that we haven't deployed technology effectively to maximize production. And therefore, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, frankly, in terms of increasing production across the continent, not just in Africa, not just in Tanzania. So I think potential is there, but we're still a little bit, in the previous century when it comes to how we're deploying technology in the agricultural space.
Tech. Well, how has the development of rural areas affected economic growth in Tanzania? We have lots of rural areas in Tanzania. How has it affected economic growth?
It's quite interesting, actually, on that point. I was looking at a study which was saying that, actually the rural communities are better off than people estimate on the basis of food security and a number of other things. The rural areas, of course, are typically the stronghold of CCM and also the stronghold of these independence parties. You look at ZANU-PF, where it gets its votes, and you look at other places, they tend to be politically very much aligned with the government of the time. I think in many respects, these old independence parties want to keep them like that. There is a tremendous amount of potential in the rural areas, I think, that can be deployed and utilized, and that economy can be raised. I would say that if I look at the rural economies across sub-Saharan Africa, not just in Tanzania, they're not optimized for growth. Prices that are being paid to them are not reflecting market prices. Let me give you an example. Coffee prices are at record highs, but when you look at the prices paid to the farmer, they're still extremely poor. And I think over time, if we're going to improve rural livelihoods and the rural economy, we've got to look at also what we're paying to our farmers. We've got to look at the parastatals that are meant to be supporting them, but in many cases are not doing what they should be doing. They're just very expensive yokes around the neck of these farmers. But essentially the rural economy, very important part of the Tanzanian economy, a lot of potential.
Okay, you talked about incentive for farmers. Has security in any way affected economic growth? We know in lots of African countries, security has affected the way farmers are able to produce. So do you feel security has affected economic growth in Tanzania?
The farming in Eastern Africa has not suffered a security problem to the same extent that it has in places like Nigeria, where you've got, both in the northeast and northwest, you've got very big security challenges. Here in East Africa in particular, in Tanzania, the security issue is, I wouldn't say is at the extreme it is in parts of West Africa. There is a security issue in the southern area of Tanzania, bordering Mozambique, of course, where you had the insurgency in northern Mozambique, which seemed to have quite a connection with people in that part of Tanzania as well, and there's been spillovers on a number of occasions. But I don't think that security is of the same importance in Tanzania as it would be somewhere like Nigeria for farmers.
All right, let me go straight to you, Ashura. Let's look at the fact that the United Nations Economic Reports for Africa has mentioned that 10.3% of youths are actually unemployed. So what opportunities lie in wait for the youths there in Tanzania? What opportunities are open for them?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot of youth are trying out. There's a lot of startups now. They're going into a digital economy and skills and activities attached to a digital world. But then there's so little support from the government, which makes it like only the privileged youth that are able to explore and access these opportunities. And yeah, there's a lot of able youth who are not able to work because of a high unemployment rate, which is so unfortunate because or any nation that would like to see it progress, they have to utilize their youth. But in Tanzania, we have a lot of youth who are unemployed, and those who are trying, for example, to do businesses on the street, street vendors, get harassed all the time by the authority. And those privileged or who have been exposed, for example, if they have studied abroad, they're able to tap into the digital economy and activities. So there is a hope, actually, that youth are trying. But the only issue that I see that a lot of youth feel like the government, the politics has nothing to do with the way of life and how things go in the country, which is not true. Okay. Because the government determine the life, determine the present and the future. And so we have to take charge and hold the government officials accountable and participate fully into voting, into elections, and make sure that we can only have someone safe that we have voted for and that we can hold them accountable so that we can have a better life for a lot of us youth and all Tanzanians in general.
Ashura, 2025 seems far, but at the same time close. Do we see more youth political parties coming up for 2025 for a better election?
I hope so, because we have promising parties in Tanzania, opposition parties. Because for me, I am still looking forward for the second independence from the ruling party, because the ruling party has departed from its founding values. It has become so corrupt and so dictatorial. And this is the issue here. CCM has managed to fool people that Tanzania is a democratic country because they change faces every 5 or 10 years. Unlike other countries where you can pinpoint, like, this guy is corrupt and he's looting the country and he's doing so and so. But in Tanzania, it's like, oh, there is a ruling party that changes faces and therefore there is a democracy, which is not true. So we have to go away. We have to make CCM resign from the Tanzanian politics and just have something new. And that's the idea of having a democratic process in the country, that we are able to elect a different party and then see and test them after 5-10 years. We can elect another one. CCM has no authority to run Tanzania as their own company and then failing us for the last 6 decades, where even today as we're speaking, my uncle is not able to watch me on TV because there's no power. After 6 years of independence, people stay 24 hours without power. How can we see progress this way? Because even when youth are trying to do businesses, they need electricity to save food or to do a salon activity or whatever. We need power to do any kind of activity today, but then there's no power now. There's blackout in Tanzania. So as a youth, I feel like we have to take charge. We have to participate fully into politics, because politics determine our life and the future.
All right, you've actually expatiated on some of the points that we would later on touch on, but let's also ask you about the youths. More importantly, is Tanzania looking at any opportunity of offering free loans to the youths, if there's any at all? Are there access to free loans? Are there access to, take for instance, fintechs and other companies in different parts of Africa gain access to loans, seedings, and so on? Is there any opportunity for the youths out there in Tanzania as you look at 60 years?
Is that for me?
Yes, that's for you.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier on, according to policies and manifesto of the ruling party, there is a possibility for youth to get, it's not really free loan, but if you're in a group, you can get some kind of affordable loan from the local municipals, from the local government, and that you can do business and then return. So you have to be in groups. But then I don't know its accessibility, as I said earlier, because there's a lot of nepotism, and that you have to be, for example, from the ruling party. I am not sure if they know that you are an opposition member, that you can get this kind of loan, because now it has become so much about, if you're ruling party, then you're more of a Tanzanian than if you're not, which is really a big problem. So yes, according to policies, there are possibility for young people to form themselves in groups and get some affordable loans. But then I'm not sure of its accessibility and availability on time when youth need these kind of loans.
All right. Okay, so let me go straight to Ali Khan. Ali Khan, we've seen other countries, African countries, take for instance Gambia, and not forgetting Rwanda, who have actually made a lot of, who have actually grown the economy using nothing more than tourism as well, which happens to be the major driver. We've also seen Tanzania blessed with these arms or these tourist opportunities from mining, not forgetting to the Mount Kilimanjaro and the likes. Is there any possibility that the economy could see a growth in rates, in numbers, in opportunities for the youths as they clock 60?
So, to turn to tourism, of course, you used two good examples. One was Rwanda, which successfully repriced its main tourism product, which is the gorillas, to prices which were much higher than previously. And have continued to show good earnings. They kind of targeted fewer visitors, higher prices in Rwanda. And in many ways, it's a bit of a niche market. Tanzania, in terms of tourism, has tremendous tourism. You've got Serengeti, you've got a whole bunch of other game parks. You've got Mount Kilimanjaro, which is very popular. You've got places, the coast, you've got Zanzibar, just to name a few. And Tanzania has a very successful tourism operation. Number of visitors are quite high, but obviously, there is tremendous potential to get more. And then bear in mind, when it comes to tourism, tourism has a very long tail in terms of employment. One person, you get lots of people who can earn a living off tourism. The curio seller, the driver, the curator, the accommodation provider. So it has a very long tail of employment. So I think, yes, to your question, can it provide more employment? Yes, it can, definitely. If there is a very strong multiplier effect in tourism in the employment space. Reports show that for each tourist who visits, up to 6 or 7 people can make a living off that visit potentially, which is a very, very high number. So I think there's a lot of potential on that front. Just to quickly touch on what your previous guest was talking about, the digital economy. I think Tanzania's lagged the digital economy in terms of Africa. If you look at Africa as a whole, every other day now you've got a unicorn in Nigeria as people look to target that market. Kenya, I think, was fortunate in that it embraced mobile money and a fast internet and brought it at reasonable prices. So you had a very big uptake here as well. And now Egypt is pushing forward. And that's why I think that, if you're going to go for, I remember Jack Ma was in Kenya, and at a talk, somebody said, but our infrastructure is so terrible. And he turned to everybody in the room and said, you're all on 4G. That's the new infrastructure. And I think in Tanzania, if it wants to accelerate the digital economy, needs to accelerate the internet, mobile money, they slapped a tax on it, for example, not too long ago, which reduced the volumes that were going through it. That was a poor policy decision, and I think they should, I think they shouldn't have done that. So I think Tanzania has potential, but in order to get going on that digital economy side and start employing more young people in it and creating more excitement, because it's a big market opportunity. They just need to embrace it and become more joined up in their thinking and how they're addressing that market.
Okay, Ali, you talked about digital economy, but for that to grow, we know that power is necessary. And earlier on, Ashura talked about no light in Tanzania. So how can Tanzania grow its power sector?
So that was an interesting point that was made, and I heard it, and this is a phenomenon we're seeing in many parts of Africa. I mean, in Nigeria, you hear the constant buzz of generators, for example. And really, without power, we're going nowhere. We've got to switch the lights on if we want to get the continent, Tanzania and the continent moving. Tanzania is currently in a power deficit situation, and this will continue for a while. Look, they need to accelerate. If you want to deal with power, Tanzania's got an abundance of gas that should be accelerated. There is an abundance of the sun. So you look at whether you can do more solar power. In the medium term, you'll have the oil coming out of Uganda as well. And then there are some micro solutions for power. I've seen a lot of solar power businesses which are delivering solar power to the village level, to individuals at that level for $1 a day. And, you know, they will have light, they'll be able to recharge their phones, and if they pay a bit more, they'll even have a television and they can watch a whole bunch of programs. So look, there are solutions. It's not as if there are no solutions and we're going to remain in the dark forever. But then you've got to create an environment which allows these solutions to be delivered. One environment is obviously at the high level, and I think under President Magufuli, there was a go slow with the gas prospect. There were arguments with everybody who were going to provide capital for that. I think the tune has changed there now, so maybe you'll see a quicker development of the gas opportunity. A lot of the people who were providing solar at the micro level told me it was a very difficult environment to operate in, and they all kind of gave up and went for other markets. So you've got to create an enabling environment in order to solve the power issue. If you don't solve the power issue, you're not going to have an economy.
All right. So it seems Kayupa Yupa has the challenges and Khan has the solutions. So Kayupa Yupa, let's also look at the fact that the youths in general, are they interested in politics as it stands?
Yeah, it looks like there is a hope that youth today are interested into politics. And when politics was better the last 10 years, there were a lot of young people in the parliament. Unfortunately, in the last year's election, 2020, the ruling party stole all of it. They wanted to have just one party parliament. But there were a lot of young people participating as candidates and also going into campaigns and doing a lot of activity. So I hope that this will continue, because it's so important to see the Tanzania that we want, and the fact that we are more than half of the population. We have to make it happen, because the first president, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, was only 39 when he became president. So he was a young man. He was eager, and he was working so hard for our beautiful country that we have today. So we also, youth of today, have to take charge and have to make sure that we are going to have good politics, because that's what determines the present and the future.
Okay, Ali, you seem to always make Nigeria in most of your illustrations. I guess Nigeria is on the limelight, so to say. But we're looking at 60 years independence anniversary for Tanzania. What are your hopes from now on?
Together, firstly, obviously, there is a political challenge in Tanzania, and I think the ruling party is suppressing a lot of political aspirations, whether it's opposition parties or other voices. I was hoping the new president would accommodate these voices, but unfortunately, what we've seen so far is a quite a repressive approach to alternate voices. So I think, firstly, I would like to see a more democratic space, which will then allow more youthful participation and allow people to feel more empowered. I think from an economic perspective, I think Tanzania has enormous untapped potential, and a more coherent, less abrasive and less adversarial policy-making approach, I think, could unlock a lot of growth. President Magufuli was very abrasive. Kind of thought everyone was out there to rip them off, when they're not necessarily trying to do that. They're just trying to earn a return. And when you look at investors, it's not just international investors you need to look at. You need to look at local investors that are the most important ones. And at the end of the day, make it a more attractive investment destination for the average Tanzanian citizen. Your other guest was saying you set up a shop. They're an investor. They're investing in doing a shop, and then it gets knocked down for no good reason. That's outrageous, right? I mean, that is reducing economic opportunity particularly amongst the entrepreneurial people in your society, who are the ones you want to be rewarding because they've got off their backside and trying to do something. So I think a lot of potential. I think it needs more political flexibility at the ruling party level, which is a phenomenon that I think we're seeing across a lot of other African countries as well as you go down south. And I think, you get back to one really important point that I've looked at over the last 100 years. The single biggest key to unlocking progress is actually education. And when I've looked into the Tanzanian education system, it seems very, very old, old school. And I think that could be reinvented. That would make, the youth, which are the demographic dividend, more optimal for the economy of the 21st century economy. And I think Tanzania will progress a great deal. Make no mistake, the country has tremendous potential. And unlike other African countries, is coherent in terms, the tribal issue is not that big. It is a coherent society. This is one of the single most important legacies of President Nyerere, I think. And that gives it even a lot of potential in an environment where you just have to look around at the lack of coherence in countries. Look at what's happening in Ethiopia, look at what's happening in other countries. That gives them a lot of potential because it means that once everyone gets focused, they don't have these side issues that other countries have.
All right, quite interesting. So our guests are Ashura Kayupa and Ali Khan Sachi. If you just tuned in, this is News Central. We're taking a look at Tanzania at 60. When we come back from the break, we'll take a look at FDIs and not forgetting other industries that the youth may possibly thrive on. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Shangwe, and I want to take this opportunity to wish all Tanzanians happy Independence Day of Tanganyika. As you know, Tanzania is a product of the union between Tanganyika and Zanzibar, and this year, December 9, 2021, marks 60 years of independence of Tanganyika. So it's a big day in our national calendar. It's a day to reflect on our history.
Of course, you're still on to News Central TV, and we are looking at Tanzania at 60, and we're looking at how to build a more stable Tanzania. Let's work together to build stable Tanzania. We're in the second phase, and we've had with us Ashuru Kayupa. We've also had Ali Kansachu, and we're looking at youths and the economy, how to better the economy.
All right. Right now, we will be joining the live feed as we are being told that the President Samia Hassan is actually speaking right now. So let's join in. Let's get a piece of what she's saying.
Ilikuwa ni wakaribishi wasalimie wananchi, lakini kwa sababu ya muda wageni wetu watasimama na kutoa salamu kupungia kwa wananchi. Nianze na Mheshimiwa Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na mwenyekiti wa Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. Ndugu zangu wa Tanzania, huyu ni mgeni rasmi katika sherehe yetu ya leo, kwa sababu mbali ya kushiriki sherehe hizi, lakini yuko kwenye ziara maalum ya kiserikali. Kwa tutakuwa naye pia kesho. Lakini kama mnavyojua, kule Kenya shamra na vuguvugu la uchaguzi limeanza. Kwa hiyo Rais Kenyatta tutakuwa naye leo kama mara ya mwisho kwa mkuu wa nchi katika sherehe za aina hii. Tukimwalika tena atakuja kama rais mstaafu. Lakini aliyetuunga mkono leo ni Mheshimiwa Azali Asumani, Rais wa Muungano wa Visiwa vya Komoro na makamu wa pili wa mwenyekiti wa Umoja wa Afrika.
And that's the President Samia Suluhu Hassan. The speech is ongoing. That's what everyone's been waiting for. And we here at News Central we're looking forward to join that live broadcast. But as we wrap this special broadcast up, we'd like to ask Ali Khan one more question. Ali Khan, what areas do you think specifically, very quickly by the way, that the president will be talking about? The touch points, if I may put it that way.
So, you can see she's got a lot of East African visitors. I think she'll be speaking about community relations, growing that economy. I would like to see precisely what she's going to put in her policy program. I think this is an enormous opportunity for her to set out her stall. She's proven much more business friendly. I think you will see more pro-business proposals. Ease of doing business, getting investors a little bit more excited about opportunities, and talking about accelerating things like the gas side, accelerating investment and FDI into Tanzania.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ali Khan, Sachu, Africa Geoeconomic, and of course, not forgetting micro analyst. It's been a wonderful one having you here today. All right, I want to also say thank you to Ashura Kayupa, who actually joined us earlier on. So there we have it. We've taken a look at 2 hours straight to thereabout as Tanzania celebrates 60 years. Rita, so many points to take out of this one.
It's not easy. 60 years of independence, that's a long way, long way.
It's quite deep. We've looked at the political aspect of it. We've also looked at the other aspects that's got to do with the youth. And we've seen possibilities that actually lie in wait, as long as they are willing and ready to grab it.
Reconciliation in wait from the opposition parties. So we're waiting. I'm sure they have heard, the ruling party has heard what the opposition has to say, talking about dialogue and, of course, constitutional reform. So we wait and see what the ruling party will do. It's been 60 years, wonderful in Tanzania.
That's right. And that will do for our broadcast for today. It's been a special one, no doubt, and I hope that you enjoyed it. We've been able to comb around Africa, particularly focused on the Eastern African part. I'm talking about Tanzania, and it's been wonderful doing it with you, Rita.
Definitely. Also wonderful with you, Joe Hanson. Of course, to our lovely guests, it's been wonderful to hear your opinions on how to make Tanzania better 60 years after independence.
We'll be joining our live feeds right now all the way in Tanzania, but do well to stay with us. More programming coming your way. I'm Joe Hanson. She's Rita Modia. Thanks for watching. Stay with us.
Chazanu PF akimwakilisha Mheshimiwa Emerson Mnangagwa, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Zimbabwe. Tuko pia na Mheshimiwa Kanditi Mashengo Dlamini, Naibu Waziri wa Uhusiano wa Kimataifa wa Ushirikiano wa Jamhuri ya Afrika Kusini, akimwakilisha Mheshimiwa Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Afrika Kusini. Tunaye Mheshimiwa Jaji Imani Aboud, Rais wa Mahakama ya Afrika ya Haki za Binadamu. Tunaye Mheshimiwa Dr. Peter Mutsuku Mathuki, Katibu Mkuu wa Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. Tunaye pia Mheshimiwa Lebius Tangeni Tobias, Balozi wa Jamhuri ya Namibia nchini, akimwakilisha Mheshimiwa Hage Geingob, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Namibia. Tunaye pia Bwana Tema Alfailakawi, Naibu Mkurugenzi wa Operesheni ya Mfuko wa Kuwait au Kuwait Fund. Hawa ndio wageni pamoja na wengine. Hawa ndio waliotunga mkono kwenye sherehe zetu leo. Nami nichukue fursa hii kwa niaba ya Watanzania kuwashukuru sana kaka zetu, dada zetu waliokuja kutunga mkono kwenye maadhimisho haya, na huu ndio umoja wa kanda zetu na ndio umoja wa Afrika. Tunawashukuru sana, asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza.
Waheshimiwa wageni waalikwa, ndugu wananchi, mabibi na mabwana, kufikia hapa ndio tunatamatisha rasmi ratiba yetu ya leo ya maadhimisho ya miaka 60 ya uhuru wa Tanzania. Tunakushukuru Mheshimiwa Rais pamoja na wageni waalikwa wote, ndugu wananchi, mabibi na mabwana, kwa utulivu mliouonyesha, na tunawatakia mchana mwema. Mheshimiwa Rais na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu atashuka uwanjani na kuondoka eneo hili akifuatiwa na wakuu wa nchi pamoja na makamu wa rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Wa Tanzania kwa kutupa nafasi ya kusherehekea miaka 60 ya uhuru wa Tanzania bara.
Atakayefuatia kuondoka mara baada ya Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania Mheshimiwa Samia Suluhu Hassan ni Rais Uhuru Kenyatta wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Atakayefuatia kuondoka ni Rais Uhuru Kenyatta wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Msafara wa Mheshimiwa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta wa Kenya ujiandae.